What's up?
Man,
Dude,
dude,
I set my alarm for 5 a.m. and then when it was I couldn't sleep last night and then because we were supposed to do this at what 8
yes.
and I set my alarm for 5 so I'd have plenty of time to get up and I wasn't sleeping at all, man. My eyes were awake at 3 and at 5 my eyes were still I was still awake. And so I reset it for 6. It went off at 6 and then I hit snooze until about 7 and then fell asleep again and somehow opened my eyes at like 7:45. Um, Last night was the first night like with this whole so we start filming the videos from my record this next week. We start filming on Thursday is the first filming day, but like people start getting in town on Tuesday. I've got people coming in town and stuff to do it. And um I'm just exhausted, man. But uh just been burning the candle like I talked about 2 weeks ago or last week or whatever it was, burning the candle at like five ends right now with it. But
Yeah.
um, so I like last night, man. Yesterday evening I sat down in this chair. I almost had to go up to North Carolina to deliver some uh a generator and some clothes and stuff to some people up there that needed it. And it wasn't a planned trip. The night before, a friend of mine had his wife had hit my mom up on Facebook and said they were in need of some stuff, and um, so she sent that to me, and I was like, well, yeah, I know I'm in the middle of this project, but so what, like if they need help, I can drive it up there to them. It's about 4.5 hour drive one way,
Yep.
and this guy's dad was gonna. Who lives down here? It's kind of, not elderly, but he's old. He's very capable, but he's in his 70s. Late 70s. They needed the generator because they have a son who's on a ventilator. So
Ugh.
they had this big generator running at night, but it's guzzling all the gas just for that. And they wanted a little inverted generator. And I've got one of those, but they had bought one, I guess, too, on top of that. So anyway, yesterday I like kind of I just told him I was like, if your dad needs me to go, I'll go. And his dad hit me up and I was like, cool, I'll do it. And so I was getting stuff together to go and I was getting some clothes and extra stuff together that they had mentioned. And then his dad hits me up and he's like, "You don't have time for this. I appreciate it. I'm leaving right now." So his dad just like took off, which was very typical of his dad from what I remember. I haven't seen his dad in years, but his dad's like man's man.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, I don't mind. Like I'm right here. Like I'm getting ready to leave, and he was already gone. So I don't know if it was the letdown from that, like thinking that I was going to have to make this trip, and then I did a bunch of other stuff after that for here. But man, I sat down in this chair yesterday when I got home to make a couple of calls and like I couldn't even make the calls. Like I was just like I was so, like sometimes when you're exhausted, you get like flush in the face, like it's just like
Yeah.
done. And so that's where I was last night. I was like, I'm going to bed early. So I got in bed at like 10:30, which is early for me. Usually I'm 11 to midnight, somewhere in there.
Right.
And just couldn't sleep. It's
Were
crazy.
you guys affected at all by the hurricane?
I mean, I had three trees down. I had to, so what we get is when we get tropical storm stuff here, the real thing about, and by the way, I know it was a hurricane, but we were getting like as it came across Florida, we're getting bands in off the ocean because if, like this is Florida, and this is I don't know if this is backwards on the screen or not, but
No, it's good.
anyway, if this is Florida, we're like right here. So this thing, it came across Florida, and as it came across, we're getting all these bands in off the ocean, and we are just getting tropical storm force winds. But what happens is all the water spouts that spin up, which are basically tornadoes on the water, they'll come on shore, and we're always in the line of because we're like the ocean's 2 miles, 2.5 miles that way. So
Right.
those things stay if a water spout comes on shore, they'll turn into a tornado. Like small tornadoes, but they'll turn. But anyway, we had one of those come right over the house. Like,
Oof.
I mean, like right over top of us, and it did down a few trees. And so I had to like one arm chainsaw. It was interesting. Like I had to operate the chainsaw with like the other hand. Like, I had to hold the chainsaw with this and just do the thing. So it was like opposite of what I'm used to. And then like pulling the branches with one hand. It was like, man, this is humbling right now. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we had that, but nothing like what's going on up there,
Should we
man. I
talk
mean,
about the rollout of how like FEMA and like
oh my
we
God,
have
dude.
mutual friends. Some of them are high profile, like Tim Kennedy and stuff that are like boots on the ground there.
Yeah, dude.
And
Save Our Allies is the comp
yes,
is the nonprofit they were and they just a quick history of that they formed to go rescue people who had helped us in Afghanistan
yes, the withdrawal.
when
Yeah,
the bad withdrawal happened in Afghanistan. They actually got an airplane, I think from Albania. They got an airplane and like 12 people, 12 special forces guys
yeah,
went in and got like, I mean, it was 17,000 people, I believe,
yes,
out when
yes,
our US government did nothing.
correct.
So, and these were people who had helped, translators and people who had helped in Afghanistan
Yeah,
and their families and other people who needed to get out.
yeah,
So anyway, these guys are like, I mean, this is like the real life Avengers, like helping out wherever
yeah.
they can. They
Salt of
they
the
also
earth.
Chad Robichaux is the guy who runs it. He's also ex-special forces. He had a translator named Aziz, and Aziz is the reason why Save Our Allies happened.
Yes,
Because Aziz hit him up and is like, "Man, I got to get out of here. I got to get my family
yeah.
out of here."
I'm not safe.
This is a guy who had saved Chad's life and helped him. So
Yeah,
he rescued Aziz and his family as well, man. Um, but they also have Chad also has a second nonprofit called Mighty Oaks Foundation, which deals with mental health help for um, for veterans, people
yeah,
veterans of PTSD, and it's through a Christian lens, and it's a great man. These guys are like they make me feel like such a like a terrible
yeah.
person or like a do nothing,
Yeah. Their Tuesday morning is like us going,
Uh,
"Hey, do you want to record a podcast?" And there's like, "Hey, we're gonna fly. We're gonna get this plane in Albania and rescue American citizens or just
yeah, so
people that
so
are
so they
suffering."
So they went. So they're in North
But
Carolina
but
now. I
everything going
believe
on
Chad,
there,
but I believe Chad lives in North Carolina now.
yes,
He's from Louisiana, but he and I don't know Chad Robichaux, but I've kept up with him, man, and just what like a again, man, like um has me rethinking rethinking my life decisions because these guys are just so like look up Tim Kennedy on Instagram or Chad Robichaux on Instagram. I know Chris Pratt is there, Jocko Willink is there. Like these people are you
correct.
know
It's like
just
true, genuine. They
yeah,
give a shit. But like
yeah.
so, like the whole thing I guess I want to talk about is like you have FEMA in the government and people in the government and whatever leadership and law
Mhm.
enforcement saying, "Oh, we're getting deliveries, resources." A week later, and you have all these other reports of people saying FEMA's blocking deliveries of goods, they're not allowing private citizens to evacuate. It's like you're dealing with the backwoods Appalachian men and women who are America first. And it's like it's almost like they want like some type of outbreak to happen, violent outbreak between the government and citizens. And then you go down even further down the rabbit hole where it's like in that area, isn't it like lithium or some like weird
Yeah, there's lithium. I believe it's either lithium
mercury
or
or
cobalt.
cobalt,
Yeah.
where if you know enough about cobalt, what the resource value of that is, it's like, is this a land grab that they're not doing shit about? Because there's more
Well,
people they're finding every day that far surpass what happened in Kratina. And not to take away from that event,
no,
but
but here's the thing, man, is there are um uh it's look, it's not like what happened. This is Lahaina,
yes,
Hawaii
this
all
is
over
Maui. This
again.
is Maui without fire.
Maui all over again. And but look, man, the death toll of this, and I don't remember what the death toll was in Lahaina. I know it was very high, but this is going to be in the high hundreds when it's all said and done. Like this is
It,
going to make Katrina look like as far as death toll goes.
yeah, Katrina, I think was 13,000, 1,300 something. I think around there. This is
Yeah,
they're saying well into the 2000s. I mean,
yeah.
they're finding
This is
bodies every day in trees.
yeah. I think there was a community that just yesterday asked for 200 body bags.
Yeah. And so it's like, I guess my question we can talk about is this, why is this, the people that ask these questions, like saying this is what's really happening, like Elon Musk getting pushback from other people saying Starlink should be involved. And he's getting all this stuff from boots on the ground people. He's trying to help. It's like, at what point does trying to help make you politically against an agenda? It's such a weird dynamic where why
It
we all can't we come together and help each other? Why this is nothing
well,
but politics.
so uh, the day before the hurricane hit, um, I believe it was the day before, 2 days before, Zelensky from Ukraine was
Yes.
in Washington, and Biden gave him a check for $2.4 billion for Ukraine.
Yep.
Another check for 2.4 billion. I don't know how many billions of dollars it is at this point. Um, the hurricane hits, comes through. Um, Now they're saying FEMA is out of money.
Correct.
And I'm not saying, look, I'm not taking a side on this right now, but I will say this: FEMA is out of money because FEMA has given, I think it's 600, I don't know the number. I'm going to get the number wrong. I don't remember the number of how many millions of dollars this year they've given to support the southern border migrant crisis,
Yep.
right?
Which,
Yeah. So now FEMA's out of money because they've given all the money to that already. So FEMA's out of money. They only have 100 and something million left, and once they're done with that, they're done. They can't support even if another hurricane comes through, they're not going to have enough money. So we're being told there's no money when $2.4 billion went to Ukraine. And I understand they want to talk about, they love talking about budget when it comes to this stuff. Well, it's not in the budget. We don't have the budget for it. It wasn't budgeted. You don't care about budget when you're overspending, when you're
correct.
spending money we don't have. Like budget doesn't matter then. Like we don't have the $2.4 billion to send to Ukraine, but
Right.
they find a way to do it. It just wasn't earmarked for that. And it's like, come on, man. Move some of that Ukraine money here and
Yeah.
send it to the people who need it. They could have done the same thing in Lahaina. And what they have done is so Kamala Harris visits somewhere up there and she says, we're same thing as Lahaina. We're prepared to give each person $750, right? Each family $750. And it's like, what are they gonna, that doesn't, what are they, I mean, yes, first of all, money isn't helping right now because no one can buy anything because there isn't anything to buy. But I'm
Correct.
saying just in the future, not that that money's nothing, that will buy them some food, it will help. But like, what in the grand scheme of things, when these people have lost everything, what is $750 billion? Oh, sorry, $750 going to do um, at that point?
Correct.
Then there's an interview with Biden, and again, we don't even know what this dude's doing anymore. We don't care. I don't care what
Right.
he's doing. But there's an interview with him where he had gone down to look at the storm or something, and they asked someone asked him the question like, what was the uh uh yeah. So sorry. This is the headline from New York Post. Feds say there's no money left to respond to hurricanes after FEMA spent $640 million on migrants this year. So that's where they put the FEMA money, was into that. A
Awesome.
crisis that they could have stopped, but didn't, right? They allowed to happen. It's almost like what you say. It's like this is what they want. They want chaos. They want division. Uh uh so sorry, I'm reading some headlines here so I get this right. So I'm not getting it wrong. Uh uh Biden has asked um what when he got back from viewing stuff, it said you just got back from the storm zone. What do the people need? How are they doing? And he literally goes, "What storm?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Helene, oh, that's right, yeah, Helene." He goes, and his quote is, "They're getting everything they need. They're happy across the board."
Yeah. It's awesome.
Right? So then, as if to like to just completely rub everybody's nose in this, yesterday, this tweet from uh, Secretary Anthony Blinken yesterday. This is his tweet yesterday. The U.S. is at the forefront of humanitarian response in the growing crisis in Lebanon. Lebanon, announcing nearly 157 million in assistance today. We are committed to supporting those in need and delivering essential aid to displaced civilians, refugees, and the communities hosting them. Like they're just rubbing everyone's nose in this. That he's tweeting. He's tweeting about sending aid overseas while people in our country are suffering. If it's not obvious at this point that your government does not give a fuck about you,
Oh,
we are, again, you and I, everyone else, we are money batteries for the rest of the world. We are earning money to send overseas. That's all we do. That's all they need us for. It's not coming back to us. Our roads are crumbling. Our communities are crumbling in many cases. Uh, The homeless population is out of hand. Uh,
Yeah,
disaster relief is not happening. Will never happen.
mental health is a crisis. The veteran associations are a crisis. I mean,
Yeah.
everything's just embarrassing.
Yeah. And these are things that could be solved using that money. Not that, again, I'm not a proponent of government solving everything, but if we're sending all of our money to them and we have no choice but to send all of our money to them because that's what's required of us or we're arrested, then uh, they better do something with that money to help us. And it's not happening.
Have you seen that
And
meme where they turned North Korea into Ukraine? And they're like, oh, but so here's my thing when this stuff happens, and I know that, and I don't want to take away from the fact that as a country we help so many other countries, whether we agree or don't agree. The fact that we do that, I think, is admirable. But the minute when we need help,
yeah,
the crisis, disaster, whatever it is, fires, Joplin, Missouri, all this stuff, it's always where are these other countries? Like if I was Ukraine, Zelensky, I you know what? Maybe I don't want to give back all the money because I'm a piece of shit. But you know what? Here's $500 million. I'm gonna
yeah,
send back
I
to
got
Asheville.
he
Like
has
how
yachts.
come?
He has yachts to build right now,
So it's like how
you
come
know,
these other countries aren't doing that?
because Zelensky has a deal with the military industrial complex and politicians to be sure he sends that money back to
Yeah,
America. He can keep some of it. We talked about this before. He's allowed to keep some of it for himself. That
correct,
money's not being kept. All the money we send to Ukraine is not being hung on to by Ukraine. The
right,
money we send to Ukraine is being used to buy U.S. military equipment,
correct.
which then funds the puts money in the pockets of the people who own, Raytheon and
Halliburton, Boeing,
Boeing
all
and
that shit.
Halliburton and all of
Yeah,
this stuff. And then in turn, those companies donate to the politicians and put money in the politicians'
you're
pockets.
basically legally money
Or
laundering.
not, and not just donate, like under the table money.
Yeah,
They give money to them,
right.
through backdoor. Look, everyone, no one wants to talk about Burisma, which was a Ukrainian company that Joe Biden's son worked for, like, and that money was coming through Burisma back into through these not shadow, what's the right term? These shadow companies that were set up by
Shell company.
shell companies, right, that are set up. You form a company and then yes, you can't send money directly to a politician because that's illegal, but Burisma was sending money to these shell companies that were owned by the Biden family that don't do anything. These shell companies don't really do anything, but they have contracts to do something with Burisma, right? So this is what's happening. That's why Zelensky can't send the money back to help people because he won't get the money if he starts doing that. If he took that money and said, "I'm sending that $2.4 billion check I just got, I'm going to give back to the people in North Carolina." What a great optic that would be for him
Oh
to keep
God,
to keep
for
for
your
for people to go, okay, well maybe it's okay to send this guy money, but he can't do that because that's not the agreement. If he does that, the money stops.
it's almost like we had we're part of these organizations like the UN and stuff like that, like these councils and stuff. It's like we're all part of like how come no one like I can't remember the last time another country has given back to us.
Dude,
Unless it's
right?
not
No,
unless
but
it's not advertised.
because there's it's not, so the system isn't set up that way. The
Yeah.
minute they do that, the minute that another country would send aid to the United States, like really, like real aid, I'm not talking, and look, we know that France isn't going to do it. We know that Germany's not going to do it. We know
Italy's not,
that
Sweden's
Italy's not going
not,
to
yeah.
do it. Sweden's not. They're
Japan.
not yeah, the G8 countries or whatever aren't going to do it. But these smaller countries, if they decided like, hey, we're going to help the American people, again, they have the same agreement that Zelensky has in some way.
Correct.
It's like, hey, we send you money, you just make sure it makes it back into our pockets. And so it's not going to happen. I tell you what, man, I am. It's sad that we're in this state with this where we all know this is going on. Like I know this is going on. You know this is going on. They're rubbing our noses in it. We're not going to help the people of North Carolina, Florida, Tennessee, South Carolina, that were affected by this. We're not going to help the people of Lahaina. Um, but here, and they're just doing it publicly. Like, here's $2.8 billion. Here's, oh, we're sending money to Lebanon. We're sending money to I mean, how many millions of dollars was it that went to Gaza? And again, not that these aren't crisis
Correct.
situations. Here's the rich thing about it. They're crisis situations that are caused by the military industrial complex who's getting the money back. Like it's just this revolving door. It's like they're making the weapons. They're ma the you know they're making the weapons that are causing all of this, and then they send the money over for aid that they know is going to be used. Look, you send money to Lebanon for aid, what's going to happen? It's going to fall into the hands of Hezbollah, and Hezbollah is going to use it to buy more weapons.
Yeah, kill our people.
Yeah, and to build more weapons. And so it's not going to get to the people, first of all. That money's never going to get to the people. Uh, the money from for Ukraine, not that they're saying they're using it for military whatever. Have you seen video and pictures of Ukraine lately? Like they're all out shopping and hanging
Oh,
out
it
and
looks
drinking a lot.
like
Not not
Miami. It
not
looks like
that
fall night in Miami on the
not
river,
that
on the
there aren't
water. Yeah.
not that there aren't places. I'm not saying there aren't places, but it's like it's I don't think it's what people are envisioning. You don't see a lot of pictures of Ukraine. You see tons of pictures of Gaza and tons of pictures of Lebanon and tons of pictures of Israel because those places are actually bombed out and look terrible, and it creates an optic. But there's really not that much to show in Ukraine. There are some places. I'm not saying they're not. And I'm also not saying there's not something going on there. I'm not saying that there's not a war happening. But it's not what people think it is, I don't think.
Well, what was
Uh
that one where they said the missile hit the parking garage of the hotel, killing all those people? It turned out it would never happen.
yeah.
Well, they just did. I don't know who it was, some YouTube channels on, and they had basically a guy on a bicycle, him and his friend, who were I don't know if they were anti-Zelensky or the Ukraine regime, but basically they're anti. Hey, this war should not be happening. Isn't really happening type thing on both sides.
Yeah.
And so he was riding his bike around like these supposed like media uh war crime scenes, and like it would look like normal people on bikes, coffee shops, like just normal stuff. Where a month ago, this was all supposedly bombed out, or this was a vicious
Yeah.
attack, and it's
And
like
look, by the way, man, not that stuff can't happen. People are resilient. So I'm not going to say that like there wasn't a battle there or something didn't happen. There wasn't a gunfight and people just, give the middle finger to the people that are invading them and just get back to normal life.
right,
That could very well be what's happening too. So maybe I shouldn't even be maybe I'm speaking out of class. I'm just saying what I've seen on
yeah.
what is being shown
What
is
we're
what I'm
allowed to
saying.
see is
Right.
telling me something that I
Yeah.
don't doesn't feel like what is actually happening.
Correct. And I'm sure there are people who've been there who would tell me. And by the way, Save Our Allies has been to Ukraine. Ed Baker,
Yeah,
has been over there. So I'm sure they could fill us in on what the real situation is. And
right.
and again, this is not I'm not saying there's not the plight of the Ukrainian people and what's going on there is not happening. They were invaded. So let's
Well,
not forget that.
correct.
I'm backpedaling a little bit because I don't want to get too big for my britches here with it and
Well,
act like
it's
I know
almost
what's
like
going on.
we are told that something's happening, a crisis is happening, and the media portrays it in one way. It gives us only one, doesn't provide the whole story for us. It
Yeah.
just provides a side they want us to hear and see.
Yeah.
And I think that's my issue with it because when you
Well,
start asking questions, then people like us are like, "Well, you're anti, you're pro, you're this." I mean, well, I'm just wondering the questions because you're only telling us literally one side of the story.
and what I see with Zelensky is like if you could buy a kit to create a dictator.
Oh yeah, like a
Zelensky's the thing in the kit, right? And because he's duly elected in this thing, and he's first of all the regime that was before him was United States helped in ousting the regime that was there before because that regime was put in place by Russia. So the United States installs the regime they want, who's this Zelensky guy. There was a lot of money spent backing Zelensky for that election and making sure he got elected, which is odd considering they almost knew what was going to happen, you know. And now he's theirs. He's a United States puppet. Uh, you know, Not unlike Saddam Hussein, same thing. Saddam Hussein was installed by the United States,
until we're done
and
using you.
yeah, um, uh, you know, anyway, but he is, man. He's like, if you make my own dictator, it's like this is what this guy is, and like all the way down to wearing the combat fatigues everywhere he goes now, and he'll never not wear that. You'll never see this guy in a suit ever again. He will be in his green fatigues, very much like Arafat used to be in the
It's such a
80s, or
weird, yeah. It's
or
just
or uh, or Castro, like even like dude, man. There is no more war, dude. Like you destroyed everything and everything is wrecked and terrible,
Yeah,
but you still walk around in these army fatigues like, yeah, man, I'm still fighting for you. And it's like, no, you're not. You know, the thing is when that money starts flowing in and Zelensky wants this money, that money's going into his pocket. A lot of it is going into his
yeah,
pocket. There is very good evidence that not even evidence, like proof that he is building a yacht right now with that money. He's like this giant yacht like again, he's being told by the United States, look, we're going to send you all this money. You can hang on to as much of it as you think you need. You need the rest of it needs to be spent here in the United States on weaponry.
yeah.
And it's a and all we need and the news media and the journalists propagate this. They prop it all up by saying, "Oh yeah, we have to support Ukraine." And the news media is being told, "We need by the government, we need you to make this war sound necessary. We need you to make this war sound like it needs to keep going." It's very interesting how um, you know, even Putin is like and correct me if I'm wrong, but not in so many words has said there is a way to stop this war, you
Yeah.
know. And everyone knows there's a way to negotiate the end of a war. The United States could negotiate the end of this war if they wanted to. But all you hear from the politicians, both sides. I mean, fucking Lindsey Graham, dude.
Oh,
What
dude,
a
he
what
he's a
what a what a
warmonger.
what a giant piece of shit that guy is.
Yep.
He's a senator from South Carolina. Giant piece of shit. Republican. Mitch McConnell, Kentucky
Yes.
Republican. Again, this is not a right or left thing. This is a our government versus the people. That's what this is. Our people.
Yeah.
We're going to get back around to this, but but um they are telling you every day on the news, and the news is just going along with it because they're told that's what the script is, how necessary this war is. You tell me, like, I want an average American to tell me why this war is, all these people that are pro Ukraine war, who are all on the traditional non-war side of the spectrum, traditionally, like all the hippies from the 60s are all of a sudden love war. They love it, man. Let's do this war. Your Rob Reiners and
Barbara
uh,
Streisand's and
yeah, your
uh,
Neil Youngs and your Barbara Streisands, man. They're all about it. Send more thermite drones. Let's burn more people alive. All of a sudden, I'm sure there'll be some Neil Young, shitty Neil Young song coming out where he can't fucking sing because the motherfucker can't sing. There'll be some shitty Neil Young song that's going to come out, and he's going to whine about, burn that dude alive, more thermite from the skies. You know, like fuck you, dude.
yeah, no,
Like
you're
like
right.
it's so amazing to me how that happened. But I want one of them to tell me why it's necessary. One of them.
Well, they
And
can't.
none of them will see. I hope one of them sees this and one of them can tell me why it's necessary. It's not necessary. It's necessary for financial purposes only.
Yeah,
You know, and we should be concentrating on ending wars, not starting them. But all we're doing is just stoking it, man. So yes, it's terrible that Russia invades Ukraine. Why don't we do something to mitigate that rather than encourage it? They're encourage the war. I'm not saying that Ukraine doesn't need to fight for things, but it's proven that look, is it I don't know what's right or wrong with this, but it's been proven, said that Putin is only interested in certain places in Ukraine. He just wants to get certain places. Look, he rolled into Crimea, what, 8 years ago or something,
hmm
6 years ago, 8 years ago, and nobody gave a shit then. He took over a whole part of Ukraine. No one, like everyone forgets about that. We didn't do anything about it. Nobody else did anything about it. We didn't care about it back then, because we needed that to happen to have the regime change happen. That wasn't our regime in place that we had put in place. It was a different regime. So that was okay. The entire bottom peninsula of Ukraine went away to the Russians.
The
No big deal.
long game of politics in the world governments is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Like they're setting stuff up to happen on 10 years from now. So when Crimea, when it happened, what was happening in the United States? I mean, we had Obama, we had the healthcare stuff, but like there wasn't really much. It's almost like the stuff that happens, they allow it to be a distraction for something else they're working on that's going to come out in a couple years later.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, dude, back to let's bring this back full circle because this is what's important is there are people suffering in the United States and we are told there is no money for them, no relief that can happen. Here's 10% of the National Guard we're going to send, and the rest is private citizens. In some cases, there are fleets of private helicopters that people have sent in, and private helicopter pilots have sent in to help rescue people, move stuff around because there is no military there helping, right?
Correct.
Now, I do
National
know that,
Guard is being sent
but
up before.
I do know that the governor of North Carolina or the governor of whatever state has to ask for military assistance, meaning from the military, not the National Guard.
Correct.
National Guard, he can mobilize his own National Guard,
Correct.
he or she. Uh, but as far as asking for the 82nd Airborne to come in and help, and they have to ask for that, and that has not been asked for, which I also find interesting. Why not ask for that at this point? Um, because I mean, people are getting like, look, man, something that was said in the message that was sent to my mom by that family friend was, you know, people are going to start killing each other to get supplies.
Yep. Which again, I
You
think they
know,
want. Yeah.
like that's the point that it's at now.
Yeah. It's
Is
survival.
people are getting desperate. Yes, and it's like if you think that you're beyond, I'm not. I would love to think that I am not I would never be that person, but if me and my family were starving and I couldn't get food anywhere else, I would go rob somebody probably to get food if that was my only option. That was the last thing on the, last of, you have to survive. And so people are at this point and some of these helicopter pilots, there are reports that they are being threatened with arrest if they go into certain places. Don't go do this, you're going to be arrested. It's like, well, you're not doing anything.
Correct.
The people in charge aren't doing anything. There is zero command and control infrastructure set up by most of the police departments. They're doing the best they can, is my point. I'm not criticizing them. I'm just saying, like there is a lack of command and control, from what I understand. My sister is there. She's a county sheriff in one of the counties in North Carolina, and they have moved in. And she said that when they arrived where they are, that the sheriff in that place like cried, like he was happy that he had some help.
Yep.
And so these community sheriffs and these community police forces aren't set up for this kind of thing. They
Fuck
don't
no.
and that's my point with lack of command and control. There's not a a a nucleus of organization for the whole thing. And that's what I think the military would supply. You know, I don't know if it's been offered. I don't know if Biden, and Harris have been in touch with the governor and said, "Hey, we're ready to send whatever." I don't know if that's happened or not. It just seems odd to me that people are just being allowed to suffer without consequence from, there's going to be no consequence for our government. And
No.
again, so this leads me to the point of like, I am like, I realize what this would mean for me, man, if I did something like this, but I'm getting really sick of it. I'm getting really sick of you just send us your money and we'll do whatever we want to do with it, and we're in control, so you can fuck off. Is the way the government looks at it. Again, they're trying to get more of our money. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
They're trying to get, through unrealized capital gains, through they're just trying to bleed us for whatever they
Yeah.
can.
New taxes,
Yeah.
new fuck.
New
Yeah.
um and they don't mind coming after you. You have no recourse against them. It's the most one-sided you know uh it's a product we're required to buy, right? This goes for our healthcare system too. When they socialized healthcare, this is what happened. Or they socialized flood insurance too. Like I have to own flood insurance from the government and I have to pay for it. I can't not pay for it.
Yeah.
I'm required by law to have it. If this place gets wiped out by a flood, they're only going to give me $250,000. That's not enough to cover
Fucking studio.
one structure on my property, right? But I'm still required. So here's the thing: it's a product I'm required to buy. You're required to buy. We're all required to buy it. We have to buy U.S. government. We're required to buy U.S. government, and they're not required to provide any level of service past what they want to provide. And if we don't buy the product, they arrest us. So at what point, I mean, and look, it's I know it's an amendment in the Constitution for the I think it was the 19th Amendment or something. What was it? Maybe not the 19th. It was the 19th Amendment was the IRS. Um, anyway, uh, I'm at a point of look, if a quarter of the people, if a quarter of us decided to stop paying our taxes, what the fuck are they going to do? What are they going
Correct.
to do if a quarter of us decided to stop paying taxes and just said, you know, we're done. We're finished. We're not paying it. If we could band enough people together to just say, you know what, no more until you know, provide us with the service we're paying for. And the
16th Amendment was the IRS.
16th
Yep. Yep.
Amendment. Okay.
Yep.
I had a number upside down. But what 23 amendments?
I think so.
23?
23, 24.
23. Um, but uh I mean like someone needs to start that movement. And I'm like, I wish I had more of a voice. I wish I had more of a platform, you know, but the thing is that whoever starts that, then I'm the target and then they're coming after me and my family. The
Well, I
government will
wonder.
come after me. They would come after me and take every fucking thing I've got. And that's what's scary, man, is that. It's like you don't have a choice. Now, if I thought that it could work, if I thought that like if I started this movement of okay, we're finished. I'm not saying I'm not ever going to pay taxes again. It's we're not paying you taxes until there's a new agreement between you and us.
Us and the citizens, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We're you know, we're withholding until because they don't mind withhold they're withholding right now. They're withholding on the people of North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Florida. You know, they are, and by the way, again, not to try to make this political, but it's interesting how, you know, pretty much all red states.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but if you look at Lahaina, that's not that Hawaii's not a red state. So
Correct.
I'm just saying. But it is an election year.
It's a lot of blue collar
And
people, though.
man, if you know if you don't rescue those people, how are they going to vote?
It's
If they can't you know, if we go in there and send a bunch of money in and fix the infrastructure, those people, if we don't do that, are they going to be able to get to voting to polls to vote in a
well,
few weeks?
it
Probably
does
not.
seem the coincidence of early voting in some of those states where now they can say we never got those votes because of the hurricane.
Yeah, it's very
But so to I don't know if we've touched upon this, but like I know with someone like Trump, there's other world leaders that are trying to push for like the gold standard, right? To get gold back on.
well, we should have never left it. That was Richard Nixon.
Right. So
Took us off of gold.
I wonder if that type of movement, who would push back against that? I mean,
Well,
obviously, Trump wants to abolish the
well,
IRS.
I'll tell you who would push back against it. I mean, if you're asking who would
Yes.
push back.
Yeah.
So in 1973, two, three, right? Tell me which one it is because I don't know. It might be earlier than that. But it was the Nixon administration. It was Henry Kissinger convinced uh, this started a lot of our woes, man. And again, this is all about war. This is all about military industrial complex money. Henry Kissinger convinced Nixon to take us off of the gold standard, which means that our money was not based on the the value of the gold that we held. There's some, you know, people talk about Fort Knox and all the gold at Fort Knox. That used to be our wealth. That was our country's wealth, was that because everything was on the dollar was um, the value
1971.
71. So the value of the dollar was predicated on gold and how much gold we had. And Kissinger said, "Hey, we're going to let's come off of this gold standard and we'll put it into oil. The petro, that's what you hear is called the petrodollar. So then our standard became oil, and we're going to use the U.S. dollar as the standard currency for trading oil all over the world. And what that did is that's how you had countries like Saudi Arabia and places like Qatar and um, uh, uh, Dubai and all these places
Yes.
that all of a sudden sprung out of nowhere and into these massively wealthy cities because
Yeah.
now all of their oil was being bought in dollars. And so now they're super rich. And so that's what we did. But what that did is that means then that we need to control all the oil, as much oil as we can control. So we go into places like Iraq and take over oil fields. That's like if you look at the end of the day, the Iraq war was really about getting oil.
Correct.
And it's the reason why we've been sort of disinterested in Iran. We've never been interested in Iran, even though they cause all this problem, because Iran doesn't have any oil. Iran is like the breadbasket of the Middle East. They have the farming and the agriculture. That's where and that's how they hold control over the Middle East is if, yes, all these other places have oil, but they really need to get their grains and foods from Iran.
Right.
So Iran kind of holds this over the heads of a lot of the Arab nations, other Arab nations in that region. But that's why we keep these agreements with it. That's why we keep an agreement with Saudi Arabia. We keep agreement with Qatar. These places have horrible human rights records. Like, women can't drive, women can't vote. The I forget which group it is that gets beaten and they're abused. There's an abused group there. But you don't hear about that because we need the oil and we support them, and that's fine. That's good. That's good human rights violations, right? Um, According to our government. So getting us, if we were to get back on the gold standard, first of all, we'd have to have gold. And there are a lot of people that say that when we took ourselves off the gold standard, we sold all of our gold. So there is nothing in Fort Knox. So that's one of the things. Like there are people who say Fort Knox is completely empty because no one ever
Which,
sees it. No one's allowed to see it.
yeah, and you're assuming Fort Knox is actually where they hold the gold too.
It wouldn't be, but I'm using that
Yeah.
as an example, right?
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I'm not saying we have no gold, but I'm pretty sure that we don't have the gold that everyone thinks we have and that we think we have. Um, so uh, if we were to go back on the gold standard, that means that anyone involved in the oil industry, any country involved in the oil industry, all of that trouble that the politicians went to fight these wars so we could have oil,
For not.
they're the ones that are going to care. They don't want to take us off of the petrodollar. They want to keep us on it. And if we come off of the petrodollar, that also uh, would make oil. I mean, not that it's less valuable, but I think if and I'm not an economist, but I think that if we did that, then the price of oil would probably tank, and so and become a lot more affordable. And so those are the people that are going to fight, assassinate, do whatever they have to do to keep us on the petrodollar and off of the gold standard. And so if we went back to the gold standard, I think that our economy would definitely implode because we've printed so many dollars at
There's
this
no
point.
fiscal. Yeah.
We yeah because we can because we are the standard for the world. This is the thing about BRICS. I don't know if anybody's heard about BRICS. I don't remember what BRICS stands for. BRICS, BRICS. It's Russia, Saudi Arabia, uh China. Is China part of BRICS? China, uh
So Brazil,
Brazil,
Russia,
yeah.
India, China, South Africa, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia,
Okay. So they're
and
they're talking
UAE.
they're wanting to create a new world currency standard that's not the
Yes.
dollar. And so that's why this is kind of dangerous for us. That's why another reason why we can't pull that away because then the BRICS system, I forget and which currency are they wanting to use for that? Is it the Chinese or is it the Russian
I
uh
believe it's Russian.
oh, yeah, the ruble, right? They're wanting to use that for I could be wrong about that. But
I'm looking it
then
up.
that would become the petro standard at that point. If and so they would be controlling the world economy of oil production and whatnot. And then they could inflate their money because then they control everything. So it's never going to happen. I wish it would happen. I wish we could go back to something more solid. And look, not that an economy can't survive something like that. I mean, the British sterling was the world currency standard until the dollar. And when the British sterling stopped being the standard, their economy, the UK economy tanked, but they were able to rebound. I mean, at some point you're going to be able to come back from it, but we're so far gone. I mean, we would be honestly, man, if that happened, we would become a third world country overnight.
Yeah.
Like we wouldn't have any we wouldn't have any sort of infrastructure anymore. There wouldn't be gas, we wouldn't have any gasoline, we wouldn't have any food, it would be disastrous. And so that's why it can't happen. They've painted us into a corner where this is the only option, basically. Um, Unfortunately, that's going to happen at some point for us to right the ship.
Yeah.
Like the American people and most of the world is going to have to go through something like that. Um, at some point, it's going to have to happen in order for us to get back to some sort of sanity, financial sanity. Meaning we're not.
Why did Greece collapse? Was that, I mean, that was pre-pandemic, correct?
Yeah, Greece's economy collapsed, and so did Spain's.
Yes.
Both. I don't know. I don't know enough about that, to be honest with you. I get it had to do with inflation. They didn't,
Yes, the
but
inflation.
the thing is they're on the euro, but no, they weren't on the euro. They're on the euro now. So basically, is that correct? The EU swooped in and saved them and bailed them out with
Yes.
euros. Yeah, and so now they're bound to the euro. But that's what happens, man. You print more money than you have wealth. So that's basically what we're doing now. We don't have the gold standard anymore. So we have the wealth of people using the dollar to trade for oil. That's what our wealth is. That's all our wealth is. And the fact that we have a really strong military that we would probably just invade somebody if they did something we don't like.
Right, right.
It's the what is it? The threat of an ass whooping, which I'm not proud of that. That's not me bragging about it. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
But when you print more money than you have wealth, then you devalue the money. The money becomes worth less. That's where the term worthless comes from.
So
Ta-da! Um,
so Greece, they went to that decline due to heavy government spending and problems escalating over the years due to slowdown in global economic growth.
so again, government spending. What do we have a problem with? Government spending. They're sending money we don't have overseas all the time, even though we're earning. And the thing is, they need us. This is why they want to tax us more because they need more money that is of actual value to send over there. So they're not just printing this money. And look, man, we could get into the Federal Reserve
Yeah,
and
yeah.
printing of money, and it's a bottomless pit of
Know how we always talk about like sciences like being stopgapped or like prevented from further going for whatever reason. And so when you look at the country like Greece, you look at the amount of scientific sports, medicine, history, leadership, combat, all this, the arts that came from that country, that region, and
yeah.
how, what are they known for in the last 100, 200 years? Like they haven't had any, it's weird, right?
Yeah, well, but see that
Like, how
if
do
you
you
look at
interpret that? Like, could a certain part of the world or a certain country or culture get everything out of it and now it's just existing?
well, I have speculation about that. I don't have knowledge about that. My speculation is that if you really look at Greece, we know about the high points, right?
Yeah,
We know
oh,
about the Olympics and the
legendary.
and the philosophers and the
Yes,
society and but if you really look at Greece, it is a circus that's of like never-ending wars, always skirmishes amongst themselves.
yes,
Like think people don't think about like the 300 like Sparta. Well Sparta was like it was sort of again, I don't know this. I just think this is right. So just put it up there in the top when it's not correct. I think Sparta was like it was either maybe it was his own country, but it was like a faction of Greece. It
it was a
wasn't really
city
like
state.
yeah, it wasn't like a complete
Correct. Like
but
Athens was his own thing.
yeah,
Sparta,
yeah,
there's other.
yeah.
Yeah,
But the Athenians and the Greeks and the Spartans didn't like each other, So it was just
correct.
always this thing happening, and so there's always been this turmoil with Greece. Like it's never been a calm place. Yes, it had a lot of culture and science and which is amazing that they got all that stuff through. But I think traditionally throughout time, if you look at it, it's been a tumultuous place. And so as industry grew and as um the things that they were known of, the things of value that they offered, philosophy and all this stuff became less important.
Yeah.
Unfortunately became less important. And the Turks, like they had an ongoing war with the Turks, right? Like that's like been a big thing. I mean, up until like World War II time, right? Wasn't there
Yeah.
like, there's this thing with the Turks and kind of like the British and the and
Ottomans.
no, no, well, like the Falkland Wars, down
Oh,
with
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Argentina,
Yes,
it's
yeah.
like people don't think about that. A lot in the United States, we never think about the Falklands War. Like there was a war between the UK and Argentina that
Yeah.
happened in the 20th century. Uh, so I just think that what they're known for just kind of didn't become worthless, but like it was just so much upheaval. And then you bring industry into it and a growing world economy and stuff, and they just kind of got overrun, like they're
Yeah.
just the things that they weren't the superpower anymore. Look, we're superpowers are going to come and go. The United States is going to, at some point, unfortunately, and it's starting to happen. I think you see it. I don't want this to be the case, but I would love for the ideal of America to live on. Like not honestly, man, not proud of what our government does at all.
No,
But
take out the
but the government's not the
financial
people. The
attachment,
government,
the spirit of the human.
yeah, right. The government, not the people. The people I'm proud of. The
Yeah.
spirit of America I'm proud of. What
Yeah.
we what the people here uh feel like we stand for in our core, in our hearts. I love that, and I want that to live on. But I feel like this empire thing it's silly at the end of the day. It's really silly. It's Game of Thrones is what it is. And so eventually this kingdom will wane. I'm not gonna say it's gonna fall, and something else is gonna come into its place. Just like Greece was like sort of the center
Yeah.
of humanity for a long time, and then it was Rome, and then it was Spain, and then it was England, and then it was, and then it was America, and now China's kind of, even though China's economy is terrible, they don't tell you that, but it's awful, you know, um, but maybe China, maybe the Middle East, man.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Yemen and whatever. Maybe that's the next thing because they've got all the oil. Actually, the United States has more oil than any of those countries. We just don't drill. And I
Correct.
don't and I don't know if that's out of like we're gonna suck them dry at first and then we'll
I
use
mean,
our stuff or
it would make sense on paper. I'd
yeah.
get why you want to make sure we have our reserves and what we need, but I don't know. It's such a to kind of go back to the Russia thing. Last weekend, uh, we had a Motley Crue show, so we're leaving the venue. It's me, Nikki, John Five, I think Hawk. Someone else. We're just talking about something happened. We're watching the news or something, and Nikki or John go, "Man, do you think we'll ever get to play in Russia again, John or Hawk, or Ukraine or
Dude,
Belarus?" And I go, "Guys, man, it's the way it is. No, and like Nikki or John says something so profound. It was just like it's Nikki goes, it's going to be weird that there's generations there that we're never going to be able to play for again, and there's
yeah.
generations there they'll never hear our music for the first time." He goes, it sucks because that culture and the people there that respect the arts.
Yeah,
And
man.
he goes, some of the best shows you ever had. And we started talking about the 1980 Peace Festival, like the drama with all
Yeah.
Doc McGee and all
Yeah,
that
yeah.
crazy shit. But like
Yeah.
culturally, parts of the world that these you bands like Shinedown, Motley Crue, and whoever, all the artists that have fans that and you almost kind of wonder like that is all dying.
Yeah,
Like
well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing that gets lost, man, is like, war destroys everything. And politics destroys everything. Let's put
yeah.
it that way. It destroys everything it touches. Um,
Like, remember the last
everything.
time we were there?
It
Like, you
destroys,
people at the train station, like, just
dude,
so excited to see you
politics destroys
guys.
art, politics destroys families, politics destroys uh lives. There's nothing, it's greed. At the end of the day, politics is greed.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Like, you feel bad
And
for the kids, man. I mean,
yeah, but
obviously
so
people in general, but
so this beautiful experience that we've been to Russia 2 or 3 times now, and it is beautiful. Dude,
oh,
we're walking around Red Square,
it's like, man.
and and there are fans following us, singing our songs to us. like they didn't know we were going to be there. They were just waiting on us to be there because they figured we'd go out and see the sights, right? And dude, it was just like, and I remember stopping and sitting on the ground and just listening to them sing, and it was just like, wow, man, like you don't realize the reach that your music has, and um and just what a beautiful moment that was. The other interesting thing about Russia is the promoters don't communicate with you about anything. Like you know nothing. You don't know ticket counts. You don't know. Like we don't know if we're going to play this show tomorrow night in Moscow if there's going to be anybody
They
there.
haven't announced the show we're playing to a sold
Yeah,
out crowd of 20,000 people.
yeah, yeah. Like and then so we're like, I don't know, man. There might be five people here tonight in this giant 10,000 person venue, you know. And then we play the show and there's 10,000 people there.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal, man. And the spirit, like,
Oh
dude,
God.
this is what's so sad about it. This is why, like,
Goosebumps.
this is why I when I'm talking about Russia versus Ukraine, I'm not talking about the people, man. And I understand that people are affected and they all have opinions.
Correct.
I care less. I care about the people. I'm talking when I'm talking about the this versus this and what this money goes to this. It's like that's on the governments. Like I can't stand any of the governments because they all just use us and the people as again, money generators and pawns and all this other stuff. They don't care if we live or die. You know, they care if we live or die too much because if too many of us die, then they don't have their money. But at the end of the day, that's all it's about. And so this greed, this politics, this having control, this Game of Thrones that it takes place all over the world, it poisons everything, man. And like those moments of wonder and uh and moments of humanity and seeing like language doesn't matter, lifestyle doesn't matter, where you're born doesn't matter. Like in that moment it's just about music and love and beautiful things. Like that has been extinguished for now
Right.
by greed.
Yeah.
And that's sad to me, man. I will probably never play Russia again if I had to imagine, just with the way things are headed. Because, you know, once this war throttle is put down and we're going full steam ahead, you know, they want it so badly. They want the money from it so badly.
Yeah.
Um, and and honestly, man, like, you know, if I had to really look at it, um, you know, the COVID happened, the world economy tanked, and the one thing that has always been able to resurrect economies is war. And if I had to guess, that is probably what this in the end. I know we talked about the greed and everything, but like you have politicians that are like, we have to stay in control. And if the economy isn't good, we're gone. That's what's going on with this election now. I think Trump is going to win because the economy sucks,
Yes.
you know, and but these politicians who are in control, who are controlling everything, both sides, they both right and left are in control of certain things. They know, I think, that if we have war, that pumps money back into the economy and we can make the economy better so we maintain power. That if I had to guess, that's why they all of a sudden care about Ukraine.
Yeah.
You know, that's why they all of a sudden care about the Middle East, you know, and sending ships over there and blah 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 whatever. But what that does, man, is that extinguishes all of the beauty. Now that you can't find it, it's always there. There's always a flower growing out of the concrete, you know. Um, and that flower can become a large bush, and that large bush can become a tree or whatever, however you want to
Yeah.
look at it. But it takes time. And so not that we won't ever have that beauty again, but for right now, it's been put out and or cut down or whatever. And we're gonna have to you know, I don't like I said, I don't know if I'll ever get back there. I mean, I think I probably got 20 more years of playing music. Um, I don't know. It's possible, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you look at World War II, World War One, you know, I heard an interesting recording the other day. So, um, uh, in World War One, they used to take video recordings. So they would record the sound of guns onto like with a needle onto film. So they would paint. So like if a gun would go off over here, it would create like a seismic thing on this scale. And it was I think it was the closer to the top that it was. the closer it was down on the bottom of the film because these needles were recording, and you could look at this film and see how close the guns were and if they were moving toward you or away from you or if you were getting closer to them. And so they would make these recordings of the battles. Justin Press sent me this actually. Um, and uh, I'll send it to you. Maybe there's a way we can like
Yeah.
play it, but it's interesting. Someone um, overdubbed like everywhere where one of those explosions was, they put an audio explosion, like a gun going off, and then the ones in the distance were down here, and so you could listen to this. And what it was a recording of the end of World War One. It was
Ugh.
the last guns of World War One recorded on this thing,
Ugh.
and it's just barrage, 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 and then just nothing, just silence. And on the recording, whoever made the recording, they have birds chirping because you can hear it's on the edge of a river, and I forget where the river was. My World War II knowledge isn't as great as my my World War One knowledge is not as good as my World War II knowledge. But it was a river in Germany, I believe, somewhere, and then all of a sudden you can hear the river over the guns, and you hear birds chirping, and it's just
Ugh.
like that's it, the end of World War One. These things do come to an end, at some point, and unfortunately, I feel like we're just in the beginning stages of it, but. Um, It will, man. Whether it's the people stand up and demand it that it ends, or our overlords allow us to experience peace again. Whichever one of those two things it is. Um, Unfortunately, these things are cyclical now because not that they haven't always been cyclical, but it's more cyclical now than it ever was. If you look at the end of World War II, when Eisenhower, announced beware of the military industrial complex. It's the first time we ever heard that term.
Right.
He was warning people about this industry that had been put in place to propagate war. Then you got Korea, then you got Vietnam, then you've got some of this like Grenada and all this other stuff. There's light
Yeah.
skirmish things, Middle Eastern things.
Yeah.
Then you've got the first Gulf War,
Yeah.
then
Cuban
the
Missile
then
Crisis type stuff, like
then
little
then
like.
then Afghanistan, then the second Gulf War, and it's just like now we're on this cycle. Like we have, and we're seeing it now where they're like, we need a war. We've
Well, they
been too
look at
long.
it because they have proof that this stuff works.
Yeah, we've been too long without a war, and it's all about finances now. And I mean, name me one war that the United States has fought since World War II that had anything to do with. Now, I'm not. Afghanistan's a unique situation, but that had anything to do with the United States being attacked by a foreign country.
No,
You
we've
know,
always been inserted, even Kosovo and stuff like. I mean, we've had
yeah, that's another. I
citizens.
forgot about. I forgot about Kosovo.
So we've had
You know,
citizens in our country that are from these places. We get involved, but like to actively attack, it's always been the only attacks have been homegrown terrorism.
well, but again, we weren't attacked. We weren't at war with
Correct.
Afghanistan. We were
Right.
at war with
Since
right.
Pearl Harbor, we've not been actively attacked.
Yeah. And so we just find things to fight about. Saddam Hussein rolling into Kuwait. We didn't. Look.
Who gives a shit?
Well, we go
I
back to
mean,
oil. Kuwait has a lot of oil, right?
correct. Right.
Well, we don't want Saddam Hussein having that oil. Right? It has nothing to do with us, nothing to do with our
Yeah.
citizens, nothing to do with anything. It's like all of a sudden Kuwait is it's
Yeah.
actually a great analog for Ukraine. It's like I had never heard of Kuwait ever prior to that to Saddam Hussein rolling in there, and neither had 98% of the United States.
Correct.
Nobody gave a shit, and all of a sudden, it's all we care about. It's all we're
Correct.
told to care about. Oh my God, Kuwait! Holy shit! Let's all fucking care about Kuwait now. Oh my God, pray for
Right.
the people of Kuwait. And it's like, yeah, pray for the people of Kuwait, but like
But they're suffering well before this
we
war. They're still
we're
suffering, and we don't
that
care.
and
Like
and
it's
and and that was a Republican war, and we were
yeah,
told, and the news media was on board to tell everybody, dude, they were live
dude.
casting they were live
I
casting the war
remember,
to the world.
I remember
You know?
Brokaw, like all those
Oh
guys,
man,
dude. Those 60-minute episodes where it's just like, oh, everyone just glued to the TV,
I
and people are like, where the fuck is this country?
yeah, I remember being on vacation with my family at a lake house. We had this little lake house that kind of our extended family owned that we would vacate. And that's when he rolled in. We were at the lake house and we were watching it on this. I think the TV was black and white that we had at that place too, which is interesting. And it was in the 90s, but it was an old lake house. And we didn't watch a lot of TV there because it was other. But anyway, I remember watching it in black and white and like going like, what is this? Like, what is this place? Like, And all of a sudden it's like now it's in your vernacular forever. And it's the same thing with Ukraine. It's like no one gave a shit about Ukraine in that way prior to, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, now we have a Democrat war, and it's like everybody care about Ukraine now. You're being told that on the news that if you don't care about Ukraine, you're a shitty person, and you're alt-right if you don't care about Ukraine or whatever the insult is. And we're told to care about these places because they need the people to give a shit in order to keep it going. Because if they don't win the culture war of convincing us to care, then they have nothing.
Right.
If they can't convince at least half of us to want to send all of our money there, then they have nothing, you
Right.
know? So I didn't know this was going to be a political episode, John. I figured we would talk about other things, but here we are.
Yeah, no,
All because well, dude, it's paramount. It's not even politics. We talked about humanity today, is what we talked about,
yeah,
not about
it's
politics, And so I implore everyone to vote in a way. Look, I know it's choosing the best of the worst.
yeah,
You
every
know,
time.
I want you to pick the best of the worst, but try to find the worst in there that want to keep us safe and healthy, whatever that is. Or at least at this point, the ones that are telling us they want to keep us safe and healthy. Because at least at that point, we already know what the other thing is. And at this point, at that point, you have a chance of maybe finding someone with a small monicum of honesty and soul left in their body that will do what they say.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to be a majority, but at least we start to put some people in there that maybe care
Yeah.
you know, and that's all we have right now, man. And again, I'm not beyond starting this movement of don't pay your taxes. I might, I, you know, I have a feeling it wouldn't be hard to do at this point if you could get a loud enough mouthpiece and just tell people like, you see what happens? How are you living right now?
Right.
Look at your community. Look at, the thing is we don't have people are like, well, government doesn't solve problems. I'm the same. I say that, but the problem is we're not being allowed to keep the money in our communities.
Right.
The money's going all to them, like to the tune of some people pay taxes upward of 46, 47%. Almost half of their income goes to the government. They can't keep that money in their community. So that money goes to the government and the government sends it elsewhere instead of back to the community. That's the problem. Like, I'm not looking for government to save us. I'm just saying take their ability away to take our money out of our communities. Yes, we have to pay some taxes. I get that. But like the amount that we're paying is it's like it's sickening how
I
much
remember the
money that
last
is.
year I lived when I was in the government in Maryland. They launched this raid tax, which is basically like a commercial. It was basically dictated raid tax because every time it rained, we had to pay us more taxes that year based on like land management and
Rain
like
tax.
it was ridiculous. So it's like I was like, I'm out of here, man. But it's just
Rain
stuff.
tax.
It's just stuff like that where it's like they can sneak this stuff in here. Where it's only $1 a month, so every household's going to pay $12 a year. Well, you look at the number of households in some of these states, and then well, if it's $1, they can pay $5, and then
Right.
$5 goes to
And
10. It's like eventually you do $100 a month, or even then you're kind of like it's obviously affordable, but you're like,
well,
dude, that's $1,200 times how many households every year? That
yeah,
it's just
here
crazy.
here's something to think about. Every time that your government tries to convince you, but we have the same thing going with this 1 cent gas tax here that's going to help pay for roads. It's going to fund things, right? And we promise that 1% gas tax or road tax or what you're going to pay it at the pump, that 1% tax is not ever going to go to building this Interstate 526 thing we have going on here, which is this loop that they want to complete around Charleston. It's almost complete. They started building it when I was a kid. And there's one piece that still has to be filled in, and it's Johns Island where I live. And we don't want it out here because that's going to bring Walmarts and Targets and everything else. They promise it's like we need this money to fix roads, but we promise it's not going to go toward 526. So everyone says, okay, 1% gas tax to fix the roads. Great. What do they turn around and do? They say, we're going to use the 1% gas tax now for 526. After they've got it approved, they lied to everybody, and this is what they're going to do. They're going to now use it to fund this thing that nobody wants. After they said they wouldn't, but they know it's too late now.
Yeah.
They just lied. That's what they do. So think about this. Anytime that you vote for a tax increase or they talk about a tax increase, two things are going to happen. It's never going away, So once it's in, it's not like one day they're gonna go, oh, we're gonna get rid of this tax. We don't need this tax. It's always gonna be there. And two, it's only ever going to go up. That 1% tax will become a 2% tax. That 2% tax will become a 5% tax. That
Right.
5% tax will become a 10% tax. They're never going to go, they're
Hey,
never going to pull it back.
we got what
Yeah.
we got. We're going back down
Yeah.
to 2.5 for the next three
Right.
years. Like,
Never going to happen.
awesome. Right.
Never going to happen. It only grows.
And the higher it
So,
gets, the less that's going to what it's initially there for.
yeah, man. I'm the fact that we have, again, full circle back to the people of North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, Florida. The fact that we have no recourse, we have no control, we have no way of getting those people help other than through us, getting supplies. I mean, Shinedown, we sent a semi truck full of stuff, you know. Um, I wouldn't mind doing it again. I wouldn't mind sending a second one. But but people giving of themselves and sending things up and helping, the government's doing nothing. And we've already spent the money. Again, the money's not in our communities. No one has any. Now we're getting taxed again by our goodness to send things to people. So we're
Right.
buying things. That money should already be there to help. We've already sent some of us a quarter of our income, some of us half of our incomes are gone away. That money should be there to take care of these people. Instead, it's going to Ukraine. Instead, it's going to Lebanon
Yeah.
and not Lebanon, Tennessee either.
No, it's
You
going
know,
or going to a border that should not
yeah,
have been this what bad the
yeah,
way it
yeah.
is. Yeah.
Or it's going to put migrants up in hotels, by the way, and given a $5,000. Some of these people that are coming into our country illegally are getting prepaid credit cards that have $5,000 limits on them. But we can't. All we can send is
Yeah,
$745 to the person whose house is missing now.
we're paying
You know,
college tuition for kids and
I'm
shit
fucking
too.
sick of
It's
it, man. Like I'm really fucking sick of it. I'm angry. I think we should end on my anger this week. How's that?
yeah, no, I'm into it. I mean, I guess I was gonna end with the
Don't
idea.
don't don't squash my thunder, man.
No, no, you believe me, you'll get more angry with this. It's almost like a with when it comes to like I know with like the go back to North Carolina, like they're trying Verizon wanted to go in there and put these towers up right for cell phone coverage, and then
Yeah.
there's like pushback from whoever. Um, and then you have Elon Musk with the Starlink and trying to use stuff pushback. It's almost like the U.S. government, the politicians love this chaos, but the minute someone wants to step up and can actually financially do it and make them look bad,
Yep.
their ego is so bruised that they're like, "Fuck
Yes.
Elon! Oh, he's a
Yeah.
Trumper." But he's helping. There's Republicans, Democrats. He's trying to save their lives.
Because they want you suckling from the teat of government.
Ah, man, it's
And if
so
people find out that they don't need they don't need that sweet government milk, if they can get it from somewhere else, then that's a danger to the government. And the government's going to shut down whatever that thing is. It goes back to the pilots being threatened with arrest. It's just because they're private citizens doing something good,
it's
and the people are
crazy.
seeing private citizens do it and not the government. The government has to be the rescuer, you know, and yeah, that's what it's about. That's why Elon Musk is made out to be the villain all the time, by the way. All the time. You know,
Wow.
Elon Musk isn't a Trumper. Elon Musk is someone who's sick of this.
Correct.
Exactly what this example is. Like he's sick of it just like I'm sick of it. I'm
Oh, it's
fucking
like
sick of it. Do
yesterday
I
that
do I do I think that a Trump administration is going to rescue everybody? No. It's going to be a fucking dumpster fire probably. But I already know what this dumpster fire is. I'm living this dumpster fire right now.
yeah, let's
And
change the smoke.
yeah, and so I already know what this is, and I hate it. So let's try something else. That's
Yeah.
that's and that's where Musk is too. It's like I already see where this is heading,
Yeah.
and so it. But again, look, man, you can find this places. The Communist Playbook. It's is a book that about how what a socialist slash communist takeover looks like. And the tenets of that are if you have someone you don't like, and literally it says this is from the 40s. If your enemy, if you can't defeat them, brand them as a racist, brand them as a phobe of some sort, like call them names, make them out, you know, make them socially unacceptable. And that's exactly what you see going on. That's why they throw a thing about a Trump or MAGA or whatever. It's like because those have become they've made those derogatory terms. So now they can sling mud at whoever doesn't want Kamala Harris to be president or
Right.
or wants a senile old man out of office who can't, he can't even wipe his own drool at this point. It's so asinine. So I'm over being like, I don't care. Like, look, man, I love it. Anyone who ever watches any of this stuff knows I love everyone. I want everyone to be happy. There is not a racist bone in my body. There is not a homophobic bone in my body. None of that stuff. But I sure as fuck am not going to vote for the current administration because look at what's going on around you,
Yeah.
you know, and uh, uh, at least voting a different way gives me a chance to see something change. So
Correct.
there we go.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna end angry no matter what.
Um, Before you go, what's anything else new? What do you
Oh,
got?
I was like, I was out before I
Fuck,
go. What now?
dude. And
What
you got
now?
it like creatively. How you doing? All good?
Burned, burned out, burned out. But it's good. I'm like, dude. I'm just going where it leads me. I'd love to talk about that maybe next week, but
Yeah.
um, uh, I am yeah. We should talk about that next week. Like
Yeah.
next week, let's start off with that because that's a really good story of what's going on. It's something positive
Yeah.
about God working in my life right now and doing positive things, I think that maybe can help other people. So I would love to talk about that next week. And also when we talk, I'll be in the midst and the throes of making music videos. So it'll be really interesting to see how that's
I
going.
I love and porn.
And yeah, for sure.
Later.